Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This week's video, we are going to be making a new enclosure for our milk frogs. Now, a couple weeks ago, we got, well, I think it's like a month, almost 2 months now. We got 3 Amazon milk frogs from the expo that we went to. And they've been doing super well, so it's time to put them in a little bit of a bigger enclosure. You can see next to me there is their temporary enclosure, which is pretty plain. It has paper towel as substrate, there's plants in there and a water dish and not much else. I wanted to keep them in something very simple at first because I needed to make sure that they were eating properly and that they were going to the bathroom properly. So it's a lot easier to see that when you have them on paper towels. This is something that I recommend doing with anything you get as a baby because you have to make sure, number one, like I said, they're eating and going to the bathroom properly, but it also helps you make sure that they're not eating substrate when they are eating their food. Especially frogs, that can cause impaction and it can actually kill them in the end, and you won't really know until it's too late, pretty much. So keeping them on paper towels for the first little bit is totally acceptable. I tongue feed these guys and I have no problems with it, so they don't really end up at the bottom of the enclosure where the substrate would be, so I'm comfortable with putting some substrate in this new enclosure. Because again, I tongue feed them. They are usually up on the plants or on the glass waiting for me to feed them. They eat super well, so I'm not concerned about them consuming any of the substrate. As far as our substrate for this tank, we've got some sphagnum moss with some nice ASMR for you guys that we've prepared, or I've prepared by soaking so that it's all nice and moist. And that will go in the tank with a couple other things because I want the substrate to hold moisture well and still be able to have plants and stuff in the tank. So I like to squeeze most of the water or all of the water out of it after it's been rehydrated, so I can control the water content later. And it's just satisfying to squeeze all the water out. Nice. Okay, so we've got our sphagnum moss in the tank, ready to go. Then we have this log or brick of coconut fiber, which you can see is not ready. It does not absorb water as fast as the sphagnum moss, and I'm impatient. So I give up on that for a while. We move on to something else. Ta-da! There's some of our little frog friends. So I'm taking some of the plants out so that I can prep them for the tank. Now I just had, I put some of my plants that weren't doing super well in this enclosure because I forget to water them sometimes. And the moisture content inside of this tank is a lot better for those plants, so they are growing actually better now than they were, which is nice. I can kind of forget about them. I spray water in the tank for the frogs, and the plants actually get watered at the same time. So it's a win-win. I was careful not to disturb the frogs too much when I was taking my plants out. I do have to leave the snake plant because, as you can see, one of the frogs is on it, and I don't want to bother him right now. I'll bother him later. So while I wait for the coconut husk, I add the second, or the next portion of the substrate, which is just the Exoterra jungle earth. So it's kind of like bark pieces or wood pieces, wood chips, I suppose. And I'm gonna mix it all together, and then I add the coconut fiber in later, and it just makes a nice moisture holding substrate for the tank to keep that moisture in. Now, it's important to remember that our frogs, the milk frogs, are like, they're tree frogs. So they're gonna need a lot of things to climb on and jump around and maneuver on. So I went and got a little piece of cork bark that I had hanging around, put that in there for now. I end up taking it out so that I can re-landscape, but obviously I'm still impatient and I'm back to messing around with the cork bark. I don't know why it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. I think it was because I had like cold water in there and not warm water, so that's probably part of the problem. But alas, you live and you learn. So I sit here and try and get it to separate so that it will absorb water a little bit faster, and it's not going super well. So while we wait for me to figure that out, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you that Amazon milk frogs are super great pets. Now, frogs in general, I'm kind of iffy about. I don't like to deal with water features and all that kind of stuff, and all of like the tubing and pumps and filters and all that. So anything that's aquatic or amphibious, I'm skeptical of. But these guys have been fantastic. They eat super well, they're super active, I've had no problems with them. They seem to be fairly hardy. I know some frogs can be very sensitive and will die easily. They do absorb things through their skin, so that's something to be aware of. You always want to make sure that you've, got nothing nefarious on your hands if you're going to hold them. But if you're just kind of transferring them quickly, it's okay. They are a little bit more resilient to that than some of the other frog types. But they're just super, super fun to watch and feed. Like, that's why I had mentioned I tongue feed mine. So they know when I show up that it's food time. They know what time food time is at. They wait for me. And they are so enthusiastic when it comes to food. It is so funny. It's interesting watching the milk frogs as they go about their days, because they're aware of you. So I'll walk by the tank and they look at you and they're like, what are you doing? Which is not something that I assumed frogs did. We've had a Pac-Man frog before, and I know Pac-Man frogs just kind of sit and wait for things to walk past them. The Amazon milk frogs are not like that at all. They will jump clear across the tank to get a cricket. Like, they are active hunters. It's so fun to watch. Well, clearly I'm tired of waiting for this coconut husk. I've got a screwdriver and I'm separating it into smaller pieces so that hopefully the water can get absorbed a little bit faster than it has been, because I don't have all day and I refuse to go and change the water out for warm water. Stubborn. So we've got it pretty well separated. I don't need the whole thing, mainly because I didn't want to wait that long. But again, you're squeezing the water out of it, so it's not wet, it's just damp or moist. We're gonna sprinkle that in and we're gonna mix it all around to make our substrate. I figure this is a pretty good substrate for them, just because there's nothing that they'll really eat in it. They're still small enough that like those bark pieces are not going to be something they swallow. The coconut husk is really fibrous, so they're not really going to swallow that either. And again, they hang out at the top of the enclosure more so than the bottom, so I'm not super worried about that. Now that we've got all of our substrate in, we mix it all up a little bit. That way it's got a nice even consistency. Well, even. It's mixed in nicely. Then we're going to add in our cork bark again. I decided to put it in this back corner so they can kind of hide behind it if they want to. There's nothing else behind it, and the tank is entirely made of glass, so giving them things that separate them is a good thing if they choose to hide, which they don't typically. And you can see my dog. She wanted to help us out. Ava is a very helpful sidekick or assistant when it comes to anything that I'm doing. She always wants to be involved. And then we're gonna go ahead and put our plants in. I didn't really have a vision for this tank. I just kind of put it together. I got some cool plants though to put in. I really like the reds in the veins of the leaves on this guy. Don't ask me what it is because I have no idea. I'm not a plant person, so I don't know what they are. But I wanted to give them lots of places to climb around on and jump back and forth and all sorts of stuff. This one is a pothos or something? I don't remember. But I end up deciding that this is not where I wanted it to be. I immediately just take it back out and move it over because I forgot about the snake plant that I wanted to put in there. So, we switch sides. I'm really hoping that it spreads further because that'll be really pretty. I kind of left it climbing up the other plant just so it can continue to grow in whatever direction it's going. We put our little water dish back in the bottom. I haven't really seen them use it. It's usually moist enough in the tank or damp enough in the tank that they don't really need to go sit in the water dish. I've seen it one time where one of the three was in the water dish. Then we add in our little jelly beans. So this one, I believe, is moon pie. Yes, that was moon pie. Then we have cupcake. Moon pie and cupcake are the hardest to tell apart. Our third one is the easiest because their patterns are different. And this is cream puff. Cream puff has a break in the stripe on their butt, so I always can tell cream puff from everybody else. Oh! Very unceremonious entry into this tank for cream puff. Then I put in the snake plant. And it didn't stand up the way that I wanted to, so I ended up switching it around. But I figured this gives them lots of places to hide and climb and do froggy things without really needing to go onto the ground. I also noticed that my snake plant is finally growing, which it has not been doing because I, like I said, neglected it for a while. But it's fine now, so that's good. Once we've got all of our plants in, it's just time to fill the water dish with water. And you always want to make sure with frogs that you use water that has been like dechlorinated. You can get it's called ReptiSafe. So it just takes all of the hard minerals and stuff out of the water so that it's safe for your frogs because again, they absorb things through their skin. And then we've got footage of our little froggy friends. So, that's basically the end of the video. Thank you guys again so much for watching. It really means a lot to me that you actually tune in and watch. Remember to like and subscribe as it helps the channel out. Remember to always do your own research, and I'll see you in the next one.